Okay, YouTube, this is Acid Roots. I've got a game review, and that is the album Blood Moon Year of the Wolf. Now, this album came out in the fall of 2014, and it was kind of a weird place just because the game was kind of being delegated to more of just an R&B and hot hip-hop songs artist more so than a Billboard Hot 100 artist. Now, the thing about that is there's actually been several folks that have been doing that. I feel like Future has been doing that, and French Montana's been doing that, and, some of these other cats have been just hitting the rap-only charts, and that's how you find them. Now, really, whether or not, for me, it's harder to grade the game's success on that album just because I pretty much knew I wasn't going to hear those songs on the radio. Now, basically, sans Drake and maybe some Jay-Z and a few others thrown in, it just doesn't happen. But this album still came out, and it did have hits with the songs Bigger Than Me and Or Nah, both of which were kind of relevant to the time. But the thing is as far as game's best moments, it still feels more serviceable than outstanding, which was the only thing, if you go back to 2005, these songs do not have the instant blockbuster appeal of some of his earlier hits. Now, the whole thing with it is, you couple that, and lots of times rappers will put songs with R&B singers to appeal to the ladies and get an R&B flavored song on there, and it kind of works as like sometimes a club hit and that sort of thing. Well, that kind of happens, but then at the same time, this kind of gets tiresome because you wonder how else they're going to be able to get hits. So it's kind of strange. Even the Billboard has started to catch on to this. Just because you have Chris Brown or Akon on the hook doesn't necessarily mean it's going to chart anymore. So it's a bit of a strange place, but that still, even though it's tiresome now, may not have been as tiresome in 2014. So that's kind of some of the fishiness of the project. But really, this is an underpromoted album, and the strange thing about it is technically it's not really a full-fledged game album, just because of all the guests on here and the fact that he's not on every single song. So yeah, there's guests, but it's not, if he was going for like the Dr. Dre effect by doing something like he did with The Chronic, the only thing is it somehow doesn't feel as spectacular because these artists needed to be able to put out albums. But obviously there are guests on here. You're going to get French Montana, you're going to get 2014's Bobby Shmurda, you're going to get Lil Wayne, Chris Brown, Tyga, Ty Dolla $ign. I mean, it's like a game album. He's still relevant to having people that he finds with him. So that's main thing. It does kind of sound summery, but at the same time, it tries to be like a whole album rather than just something like Tupac would have done on All Eyes on Me. So, which is really, there's not a California love on here, but it does somehow still feel fun. So that's really the thing to know, is just that it has, like, for example, On One and Or Nah sound similar, but both these songs are still pretty go-to as far as the first hits to check out. Fuck Your Feelings with Lil Wayne and Chris Brown, that one is it seems like that one would be immediate, but it's not the overall winner that one might have expected. So it's good for what it is, but it doesn't have the best beat on here. It's a good song, but it could have been better. And Hit 'Em Hard is probably the best song on here to me. That has Bobby Shmurda on there, and yeah, pretty much best production. It's just a thumper. really good hit, sleek hit to check out. Tyga is on songs like, I think he's on Best Head Ever. So there's a couple. He's on here twice, and yeah, that some of those sound like songs that you would go to when you're getting ready to have yourself a night. But the thing is it still does not. I mean, there's a difference between just an album cut and a possible single. So that's about the only thing, is it just sounds more like regular music more so than stuff that everyone's going to like, meaning your friends. And Married to the Game has French Montana. So these are just a few of the best songs, but really, I think for the most part, most people are probably going to think this project is lukewarm. I think most people are going to feel like it's lukewarm, and that's just because even though there's a lot of guests on here, the execution of this album was not as strong as it needed to be for the time it was released. So it just kind of feels like, we're going to put one or two hits on there, ship out the project, rather than make it more cohesive and find the cuts that are going to keep the album alive. The guests don't really help it, and I feel like, some of these guys that are on here, like Ty Dolla $ign, his song is good, but then he dropped a good album also. So we're kind of getting like B or C grade cuts versus A grade. Most of this album is not A grade, in other words. That's like the main thing. But it still does have a handful of hits. It's just that most of it does not, like, I figured that this album was kind of forgettable, and I think you'll notice that also. So I'm going to give this album I like 7 out of 16, so I'm going to give it basically a 4.5 out of 10. And the best songs are On One, Or Nah, Married to the Game, Hit 'Em Hard, and possibly Fuck Your Feelings. Those are the 5 ones that I think should get the most attention. It really just depends upon the way that you look at it. That's going to be like the main thing, is because somehow, like I said, these do not feel like A or B grade songs, maybe like B minus type stuff, but kind of blurs the line between excellent and great, or excellent, great, and good, rather. Those two, it's kind of a question as whether or not that works. If you like good, then you shouldn't really have that problem, but if you like great, it might be more of a problem. So, but the 7 songs are Fuck Your Feelings, On One, Best Head Ever, Or Nah, Take That, Hit 'Em Hard, and Married to the Game. Those are the ones, and that's out of 16. And so the social score, I will give it a 4 social, just because there was only one real song that charted, and it really could have used a little bit more backing. I would have expected Game to push this project further, and especially with the amount of promotion, with the amount of guests on here, it could have killed 2 birds with 1 stone by getting them in the spotlight also. But that didn't happen, and so can this record be topped? I think the answer is yes, it can. And as far as like the future, I mean, Game dropped 1992 back in October. Before that, he dropped the documentary too. So there's plenty of Game basically back to 2011.